Hello, this is Cho of the Shiny Colors Discord. Welcome to another episode of The Shiny Review. Today, we've got 3 new cards to talk about. We have the new Produce SSR for Kogane. We have the Support SSR for Chiyuki. And we have the Support SSR for Madoka as part of a vote that was done a while back in order to get all these characters onto one card. Now keep in mind that Chiyuki and Kogane are permanent. They will be added to the pool once the banner is over. Madoka, however, is a limited card, so if you want her copies, you have to do specifically if you want additional costumes, you do the step up, the paid-only step up, to get costume tickets and a guaranteed copy. Or you can try your luck on the normal banner, which, as you can see, if you go all the way to a Spark, you can get a copy of her, and if you go to 25, you get 1 costume ticket. For now, though, we get to talk about Kogane. Kogane is, surprisingly enough for a perm, only a visual card. She is not like the usual perms where they have 2 different attributes. Kogane's initial appeal is a visual 3.5 that reduces your current mental by 30% of its maximum, and lowers your attention by 30% for 3 turns. The plus appeal effect, which requires the full Antika lineup, and for it to be turn 3 or later. It is a visual 30% buff for 5 turns. The 3-star version of the appeal is a visual 4.5 that reduces your current mental by 60%, and lowers your attention by 60% for 3 turns. The plus appeal has the same condition, the full Antika lineup, and for it to be turn 3 or later, for the same visual 30% buff for 5 turns. For her passives, her 1-star passive is a visual 50% up if it's turn 2 or earlier, 20% chance to activate once, very standard passive by this point. Her 2-star passive is a visual 120% up if you are at 49% mental or lower. This has a 30% chance to activate twice. So, if you use her 3-star appeal, you are automatically in range for this passive. Her 4-star passive is a visual 100% up if you are running the full Antika team, and it has a 20% chance to activate twice. Her total stat uncap is a plus 350 to visual. Her memory appeal, when maxed out, is a visual maximum 2.5 that scales based on how low your attention is. That links into a visual maximum 3.0 that scales based on how low your attention is. Kogane is pretty alright. I would say having a character that is this much of an enmity steroid, as it would be, is pretty interesting. I don't know how necessary this Kogane is for Visual Antika as it stands, but Visual Antika is also actively considered the weakest of the lineup so far, and I don't know if this Kogane necessarily fixes that. There are some pretty necessary pieces that I think would need to fall into place in order to make that team a lot more accessible than it is currently, but this card does seem really neat, and will probably have some level of application even if it's just for the immediate 60% mental reduction. I can imagine there are a lot of teams that would love to be able to utilize this to some capacity. I would give this Kogane a relatively fair B to B+, maybe leaning towards an A-, but I feel like that only really matters if you are trying to fully take advantage of that health reduction. As for the rest of what she does is just kinda normal. Nothing really too crazy or outstanding with her kit. So next then, we have Chiyuki, who is a dance support. Her masteries include Dance Mastery SP, which is plus 12 at level 80, otherwise plus 10 at level 70, plus 6 at level 30. Unit Mastery Mental, reaching plus 6 at level 75, otherwise plus 4 at level 65, plus 2 at level 55. And she has Dance Mastery Stamina, reaching plus 3 at level 80, otherwise plus 1 at level 65. If you really need the SP, you'll need at least 2 stars. If you want the better stamina, you have to go the whole way. I would not really recommend that for a perm, because once free pulls roll around, it will be very likely that you can get her, more than likely, and that would be pretty nice. I think this card is worth getting from free pulls, but I would not say this is a card you really need to go super hard to spark for. Now, as for the rest of what Chiyuki does. Her initial appeal is a Dance 2.5. Woohoo! Her 4-star appeal is a Dance 3.0 that grants a mental 2% regen for 3 turns and an immediate 5% mental heal. That's actually not that terrible. 4 healing instances is pretty cool on 1 appeal. For her passives, the only one that matters is her 2-star passive, which is a dance 100% up if you have 6 or more healing instances in that performance. Remember what I just said about this appeal giving you 4. If you use it twice, then that means as long as the regen procs all 3 turns, so 3 plus 1, and you use it a second time, then the other one just needs to proc 1 additional time, and you will be good to go on that passive. So it makes it really easy to count it out. There are other appeals that Alstroemeria have that allow you to stack up healing, and there are passives that let you stack up healing too, which also counts. So there's a lot of ways to work around this condition. Anyway, this passive has a 30% chance to activate once. And her total stat uncap is plus 200 to dance. I think that Chiyuki is kinda okay, but nothing really all that special. The 100% passive is cool, and is a nice filler option for Dance Alstroemeria, as you'll generally be able to hit this without too much issue. The rest of her passives are fairly worthless, unfortunately, and the appeal is decent, but there are certainly better options within Alstroemeria's kit. Her masteries are fairly okay, and it's high-end enough by default. There are some things that are necessarily not as good as they used to be, but in terms of a multi-purpose kit, it's fine. There's certainly better options, but for a perm, not the worst you could be getting. So it's kind of a hard sell overall as to whether or not you really need this card. I would say if you're playing Dance Alstro very specifically, you can probably pick this up as like a niche option, but absolutely is not some big game breaker. I would give her a B to a B+. So the last card we get to talk about is the Madoka, but there isn't really a good way to look at the card. So you're just going to have to trust me on the details here. She is a pure vocal support. She has access to Vocal Mastery SP, which reaches plus 12 at level 75, otherwise plus 9 at level 65. Vocal Mastery Vocal Limit Up, reaching plus 4 at level 80, otherwise plus 3 at level 70, plus 2 level 60. Excellent Boost, reaching plus 5 at level 80, otherwise plus 3 at level 70. And Vocal Mastery Stamina, capping out at plus 5 at level 80, otherwise plus 3 at level 65. This card practically yells at you to max out the card in order to make the most of both her stamina and stat uncap. You can get away with 3 copies for the max excellent boost and slightly worse stamina, but you do get the maximum overall growth potential through excellent boost, which is nice. She has 2 appeals. Her initial is a Vocal 3.0. Her 4-star appeal is a Vocal 3.5 that applies Vocal Fortify, and a 60% vocal buff for 4 turns. Her 1-star passive is a Vocal 50% up if it's turn 3 or earlier and has a 20% chance to activate up to 3 times. Her 2-star passive is a Vocal 130% up if Mono, Tenka, Madoka, and Mikoto are on your team. Has a 30% chance to activate once. Her 4-star passive is a Vocal 120% up if Mono, Tenka, Madoka, or Mikoto are in your skill history. Now notice the phrasing there. The 4-star passive requires any of them in the skill history, but the 2-star passive requires all of them to be on your team. The 4-star passive has a 20% chance to activate up to once, and she also has a plus 250 vocal uncapped max. Madoka is okay, and is once again a Madoka card built specifically for Say Halo with her 2-star passive condition. She feels very out of place, but is really just here to sell card art and costumes thanks to the gacha that it's attached to. This is what people voted for, and this is what you got. Not to say that that's necessarily a bad thing, but I don't know. I'm just not a huge fan of the cards that are now just saying, hey, you should play the new mode. That's the only thing you should play. I don't know. Feels a little odd. But I would give this card a B+ to an A-. I think it is overall good to mostly solid if you are actually playing around it. Otherwise, it's just kind of whatever. So, that will do it for the video today. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Next time we'll be talking about whatever banner comes next. As of the time of this recording, we don't know what's coming next, so let's look forward to it together. Till then, I've been Cho. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day.